The champagne flute trembles in Emma Thompson's hand as she watches her sister Jessica pose for yet another photo at Tony's Italian Kitchen. The restaurant buzzes with celebration for Jessica's engagement, but Emma feels invisible among the crowd of well-wishers praising her sister's marketing career and perfect life. Their mother Patricia's voice cuts through the chatter like a blade. Emma's still playing scientist in that lab, wasting her education on things that don't matter. At least Jessica built something real with her life. The words hit Emma's chest with familiar weight. 27 years of being the family disappointment condensed into one dismissive sentence. She grips her glass tighter, watching the golden liquid catch the warm restaurant lighting, and wonders if her parents will ever see her as anything more than their failed investment. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The scent of garlic and oregano fills Tony's Italian Kitchen as Emma Thompson adjusts the collar of her navy blazer, trying to look presentable for her sister's engagement celebration. She arrived 20 minutes late after rushing from the Pacific Northwest Medical Research Institute, where she'd been working since dawn on enzyme purification protocols. Her parents barely acknowledged her entrance, too busy fawning over Jessica's diamond ring and recounting stories of her recent promotion to regional marketing manager. Emma slides into the remaining chair at the corner of the long table, positioned where she can observe but not interrupt the main conversation flowing around Jessica like water around a perfect stone. Patricia Thompson holds court at the head of the table, her silver hair perfectly styled and her smile radiant as she addresses the gathered relatives and friends. Her voice carries that particular tone of maternal pride that Emma has heard directed toward Jessica countless times, but never toward herself. Jessica has always been our practical one, Patricia announces, raising her wine glass toward her elder daughter. She understood from early age that success means building something tangible, something people can see and respect. Marketing, business, real results that matter in the world. The table murmurs agreement, heads nodding as they absorb this familiar narrative about the Thompson family dynamics. Robert Thompson, Emma's father, adjusts his wire-rimmed glasses and clears his throat in that way that signals he's about to deliver what he considers wisdom. His weathered hands, scarred from 30 years at Millfield Manufacturing, rest on the white tablecloth as he surveys the gathering. "Both our girls are smart," he begins, his voice carrying the measured cadence of someone who believes he's being fair and balanced. But Jessica channeled that intelligence into practical directions. Emma always had her head in the clouds with those science projects and research papers. Nothing wrong with curiosity, but eventually you need to grow up and contribute something meaningful to society. The conversation flows around Emma like she's not present, family members sharing memories of Jessica's achievements while barely acknowledging her existence. Aunt Helen reminisces about Jessica's high school business club presidency. Cousin Mark discusses Jessica's impressive salary and benefit package. Uncle Tom, Patricia's brother, shifts uncomfortably in his seat but says nothing as the praise continues to pile up exclusively on Jessica's accomplishments. Emma picks at her chicken piccata, appetite disappearing as she realizes this engagement party has become another celebration of everything she's apparently failed to achieve. Jessica herself seems slightly uncomfortable with the constant comparisons, shooting occasional glances toward Emma that might contain sympathy or might simply be politeness. In her emerald dress and professional makeup, Jessica looks every inch the successful businesswoman their parents always wanted both daughters to become. Her engagement ring catches the restaurant's pendant lights as she gestures, discussing wedding plans and honeymoon destinations with animated enthusiasm. Emma genuinely loves her sister and feels happy about the engagement, but the constant implicit comparisons create an undercurrent of tension that makes celebration difficult. The restaurant around them pulses with typical Friday evening energy. Other families occupy nearby tables, their conversations mixing with clinking silverware and the occasional burst of laughter at the bar area. The walls display vintage photographs of Italy and wine bottles, creating warm ambiance that should feel welcoming, but somehow emphasizes Emma's isolation within her own family gathering. She watches a young couple at the next table sharing dessert, their faces bright with new love, and wonders if she'll ever experience the kind of unqualified support and celebration they seem to take for granted. Patricia's voice rises above the general chatter as she launches into another story about Jessica's professional accomplishments. The regional manager position came with a company car and expense account, she explains to anyone within earshot. Jessica's supervisor says she demonstrated exactly the kind of leadership and practical thinking their organization values. She makes decisions that affect real people's lives, helps families find the right insurance products for their needs. That's meaningful work that makes a difference you can measure. The indirect criticism stings because Emma knows her parents genuinely believe Jessica's insurance marketing creates more value than Emma's biochemical research into rare pediatric diseases. They've never understood the years Emma spent earning her PhD in biochemistry from Oregon State University, viewing her academic achievements as elaborate procrastination rather than preparation for meaningful work. When she moved to Portland 3 years ago to join the Pacific Northwest Medical Research Institute, their response was polite disappointment rather than pride or excitement about her opportunities. Emma's mind drifts to the laboratory where she spends most of her waking hours, pursuing research into enzyme replacement therapies for children born with devastating genetic disorders. Her current project focuses on Krabbe disease, a rare condition that destroys the nervous system of infants and young children, typically proving fatal before age 5. The work requires incredible patience and precision, often involving 12-hour days analyzing protein structures and testing potential therapeutic compounds. Most experiments fail, but each failure teaches something valuable about the disease mechanism or potential treatment approaches. The irony isn't lost on Emma that while her family celebrates Jessica's engagement at this noisy restaurant, children around the world are dying from diseases that Emma's research might eventually help treat. She thinks about the photographs pinned to her laboratory bulletin board, images sent by families of children affected by Krabbe disease. Their faces remind her why she tolerates the long hours and frequent disappointments inherent in medical research. These children deserve someone fighting for them, even if that fight happens in obscurity and receives no recognition from the people who matter most to her. Robert Thompson's voice interrupts her thoughts as he addresses her directly for the first time this evening. "Emma, you're awfully quiet tonight. Still buried in those test tubes and microscopes?" His tone suggests mild amusement, as if her research represents an amusing hobby rather than serious professional work. "When are you going to find something more stable? Maybe teaching high school science or working for a pharmaceutical company doing quality control. Something with regular hours and benefits like Jessica has." The suggestion reveals how completely her parents misunderstand both her education and her work. They view her PhD as expensive overqualification for basic laboratory tasks rather than preparation for independent research that could potentially save lives. Emma forces a smile and responds carefully, knowing that any attempt to explain her actual responsibilities will be dismissed as pretension or self-importance. "I'm working on some interesting projects right now, Dad. The research is going well." Patricia leans forward with the expression she wears when preparing to deliver what she considers gentle correction. "Honey, research is fine as a temporary phase, but you're 27 years old. You need to think about building a real career and finding someone to settle down with, like Jessica has. This laboratory phase has gone on long enough. It's time to focus on practical goals that will actually provide security and happiness." The word phase cuts particularly deep because Emma knows her parents genuinely believe her scientific career represents delayed adolescence rather than professional accomplishment. They've never visited her laboratory or asked detailed questions about her research, maintaining willful ignorance about work that consumes most of her time and energy. Jessica, by contrast, regularly brings home marketing material.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
Materials and sales reports that their parents can understand and appreciate, creating tangible evidence of professional success.
Emma excuses herself to visit the restroom, needing a moment away from the celebration to collect her thoughts. The hallway leading to the back of the restaurant feels quieter, offering temporary refuge from the constant implicit criticism disguised as family concern. She stares at her reflection in the mirror, noting the exhaustion around her eyes from recent late nights in the laboratory and wondering why she continues subjecting herself to these family gatherings that consistently leave her feeling diminished and undervalued. When she returns to the table, the conversation has shifted to wedding planning details, a topic that allows her to listen without participating while her mind processes the familiar dynamics playing out around her. Jessica discusses venue options and catering choices with her mother, who offers enthusiastic opinions about everything from flower arrangements to photographer selection. Emma observes this easy collaboration between Jessica and Patricia, noting how naturally they communicate about practical matters and share similar values about what constitutes success and happiness. The evening continues with toast after toast, celebrating Jessica's engagement and bright future, each speech reinforcing the narrative that Jessica represents everything their parents hoped their daughters would become. Emma raises her glass politely for each toast, while feeling increasingly like an outsider at her own family's celebration. She loves Jessica and genuinely wants her sister to be happy, but the constant comparisons create an atmosphere where Emma's presence feels more like an obligation than a celebration. As the evening winds down and family members begin gathering coats and purses, Emma prepares for the familiar ritual of goodbye conversations that will include subtle suggestions about her life choices and gentle pressure to follow Jessica's example. She's learned to navigate these interactions with non-committal responses that avoid conflict while protecting her emotional well-being. Though the cumulative effect of such conversations leaves her questioning whether her chosen path has any value beyond her own satisfaction. The parking lot outside Tony's Italian Kitchen buzzes with families ending their Friday evening dinners, car doors slamming and engines starting as people return to their separate lives. Emma walks toward her modest Honda Civic, keys in hand, when she notices a well-dressed man approaching their group with purposeful steps. He appears to be in his 50s, with graying hair and the confident bearing of someone accustomed to professional authority. His expensive suit and polished appearance suggest success, though Emma doesn't recognize him as someone connected to Jessica's social or professional circle. The man stops directly in front of Emma, his face breaking into a warm smile of recognition that catches her completely off guard. "Dr. Emma Thompson," he says, extending his hand in greeting. "I can't believe I'm running into you here in Millfield. I'm Dr. Michael Carter from Children's Hospital of Portland. We've never met in person, but your research on Crab disease enzyme replacement therapy has revolutionized how we treat affected children in our pediatric unit." Emma shakes his hand, processing his words while becoming aware that her entire family has stopped their goodbye conversations to listen. Patricia and Robert exchange confused glances, clearly hearing terminology they don't understand, but recognizing the respectful tone Dr. Carter uses when addressing their supposedly disappointing daughter. Jessica moves closer, curiosity replacing her usual polite indifference in Emma's research discussions. Dr. Carter continues speaking, his voice carrying the authority of someone who understands the significance of what he's describing. "Your enzyme purification protocols have been implemented in over 200 hospitals worldwide now. The treatment outcomes we're seeing are remarkable. Children who would have died within months of diagnosis are living normal, healthy lives thanks to your research breakthrough. I've personally overseen the treatment of 37 children using your protocols, and every single one has shown dramatic improvement in neurological function." The parking lot seems to have grown quieter around them, though I suspect the silence exists more in her perception than reality. Her parents stare at Dr. Carter with expressions she's never seen before.
Confusion mixed with something that might be dawning recognition. Jessica's mouth has opened slightly, her usual composure replaced by obvious surprise at hearing her sister described in terms that suggest international recognition and life-saving impact. Patricia finds her voice first, though it comes out smaller than usual. "I'm sorry, but I think there might be some confusion. Emma works in a research laboratory, but she's not a doctor.
She's still trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life, still in that temporary phase where she's exploring her options. Dr. Carter's eyebrows rise with surprise at this response. He looks between Emma and her parents, clearly trying to understand the disconnect between Emma's professional reputation and her family's perception of her work. Dr. Thompson earned her PhD in biochemistry from Oregon State University and has been conducting groundbreaking research at the Pacific Northwest Medical Research Institute for the past 3 years. Her work on enzyme replacement therapy for Krabbe disease represents one of the most significant advances in pediatric medicine in the last decade. Robert Thompson removes his glasses and cleans them slowly, a gesture Emma recognizes as his way of processing information that doesn't fit his existing understanding of the world. Are you saying Emma's laboratory work is actually helping sick children? His voice carries genuine confusion rather than skepticism, as if he's trying to reconcile this information with his long-standing assumption that Emma's career represented impractical self-indulgence. The question hangs in the cool evening air as Dr. Carter realizes he's stumbled into a family dynamic he doesn't fully understand. His expression shifts to gentle concern as he recognizes the gap between Emma's professional achievements and her family's awareness of those accomplishments. Dr. Thompson's research has directly saved the lives of over 1,000 children worldwide, he says carefully, his voice emphasizing each word. The enzyme replacement therapy she developed is now the standard treatment for Krabbe disease at pediatric hospitals across North America, Europe, and Asia. Children who would have died before their 5th birthday are now living healthy, normal lives because of her work. The silence stretches across the parking lot like a physical presence, broken only by the distant sound of traffic on Main Street and the muffled conversations of other restaurant patrons heading to their cars. Patricia Thompson's face cycles through a series of expressions as she processes Dr. Carter's words, her usual confidence replaced by visible confusion. She glances between Emma and this distinguished stranger who speaks about her younger daughter with a reverence she's never heard before. The pearl earrings Emma gave her for Mother's Day last year catch the parking lot lights as she shakes her head slowly, as if trying to clear away a persistent misunderstanding. Robert adjusts his position, his factory supervisor instincts kicking in, as he attempts to gather more concrete information. His calloused hands, still bearing traces of machine oil despite thorough washing, gesture toward Dr. Carter with the kind of respectful caution he reserves for plant executives and other authority figures. "Doctor, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us, but I think there might be some mix-up here. Emma's been working in laboratories since she finished college, yes, but nothing that would affect children's lives on the scale you're describing. She's always been more of a behind-the-scenes person, not someone who makes the kind of discoveries that get international attention." Dr. Carter's expression softens as he begins to understand the family dynamics at play. His years of experience delivering complex medical information to worried parents has taught him to recognize when people need time and careful explanation to process new information. He reaches into his jacket pocket and withdraws his phone, scrolling through what appears to be a medical journal app. "Would you mind if I showed you something that might help clarify the situation? This is from the New England Journal of Medicine, published 8 months ago." Emma watches her parents lean forward to examine Dr. Carter's phone screen, their faces illuminated by the device's glow in the gradually darkening parking lot. She recognizes the article immediately, having read it dozens of times since its publication, though she never imagined her parents would encounter it under these circumstances. The lead author listing shows her name prominently, followed by the institutional affiliation that has defined her professional identity for the past 3 years, but remained largely invisible to her family. The distance between her professional identity and her family identity has grown so vast that bridging it now feels almost impossible. Dr. Carter scrolls to a different section of the article, highlighting a paragraph that contains statistical data about treatment outcomes and long-term patient survival rates. His voice takes on the measured cadence of someone explaining complex medical concepts to non-specialists, though his tone remains warm and accessible. Dr. Thompson's research identified a specific enzyme deficiency that causes Krabbe disease and developed a replacement therapy that can be administered to affected children. Before her work, this disease was uniformly fatal, usually within the first few years of life. Now, children diagnosed early and treated with her protocol have normal life expectancy and neurological development. Patricia's hand moves to her chest, a gesture Inna recognizes from childhood as her mother's response to news that challenges her fundamental assumptions about the world. The parking lot lights cast shadows across her face as she studies the journal article, her lips moving slightly as she reads phrases
she doesn't fully understand but recognizes as significant. When she looks up at Emma, her expression contains something unfamiliar, a mixture of confusion and what might be the beginning of respect. The weight of this moment presses against Emma's chest as she realizes her parents are encountering her professional identity for the first time. Years of careful compartmentalization have kept these two worlds separate, but Dr. Carter's unexpected appearance has shattered that protective barrier. She feels exposed in a way that's both terrifying and potentially liberating, though the outcome remains uncertain. Her parents' reactions could range from genuine pride to dismissive skepticism, and she's not sure which possibility frightens her more. Robert clears his throat and addresses Dr. Carter with the formal politeness he uses when speaking to people whose authority he respects but doesn't fully understand. Doctor, I work in manufacturing, so I understand complex processes and quality control. What exactly does Emma do in her laboratory that leads to these medical treatments? How does laboratory research translate into helping sick children in hospitals? The question reveals Robert's genuine attempt to bridge the gap between his industrial background and his daughter's scientific work, though his frame of reference remains rooted in the tangible production processes he understands from his factory experience. Dr. Carter recognizes this opening and adjusts his explanation accordingly, using analogies that might resonate with someone familiar with manufacturing systems and quality control procedures. Think of Dr. Thompson as someone who identified a critical missing component in a complex biological machine, Dr. Carter explains, his hands gesturing to illustrate the concept. Children with Krabbe disease are born without the ability to produce a specific enzyme their nervous system needs to function properly. Without this enzyme, toxic substances accumulate in their brain and spinal cord, causing progressive damage that's eventually fatal. Dr. Thompson figured out how to produce this missing enzyme in the laboratory and deliver it to affected children through regular treatments. Jessica's marketing background helps her grasp the broader implications of what Dr. Carter is describing, though she struggles to reconcile this information with her long-standing perception of Emma as someone who avoids practical responsibility. Her voice carries a note of disbelief as she addresses Emma directly. So, you're saying that Emma invented a treatment for a disease that kills children, and this treatment is being used in hospitals around the world? How is this the first time we're hearing about any of this? The question hangs in the cooling evening air as Emma searches for words that might explain years of family dynamics that led to this moment of revelation. How does she describe the gradual process of learning to minimize her achievements to avoid seeming boastful or self-important? How does she explain the protective instinct that made her prefer family misunderstanding to family skepticism about work they might view as pretentious or unrealistic? Dr. Carter seems to sense the emotional complexity of the situation and steps forward slightly, his professional authority lending weight to his words. I can tell you that Dr. Thompson's research is highly regarded in the pediatric medical community. She's been invited to present her findings at international conferences, and her protocols have been adopted by children's hospitals across multiple continents. The impact of her work extends far beyond what most people achieve in entire careers, and she's accomplished this before turning 30. The mention of international recognition and conference presentations adds another layer of information that Emma's parents must somehow integrate with their existing understanding of their daughter's life and career choices.
Patricia's expression shows visible strain as she attempts to reconcile decades of viewing Emma as the impractical dreamer with this new characterization of her as an internationally recognized medical researcher whose work saves children's lives on a global scale. Uncle Tom, who has remained quietly observant throughout this exchange, finally speaks up with the directness that has always characterized his interactions with his sister's family. His voice carries a note of gentle reproach as he addresses Patricia and Robert. Maybe Emma's been trying to tell you about her work all along, but you weren't ready to hear it. Sometimes we see our children the way we expect them to be, rather than the way they actually are. The observation strikes at the heart of the family dynamics that have shaped Emma's relationship with her parents for most of her adult life. Uncle Tom's words suggest that the problem might not be Emma's failure to communicate her achievements, but rather her family's failure to listen with genuine interest and respect for work they didn't immediately understand or value. This possibility introduces an uncomfortable new perspective on years of family interactions and assumptions about Emma's character and capabilities. Dr. Carter glances at his watch and then addresses the group with the kind of professional courtesy that suggests he needs to conclude this conversation but wants to ensure he has provided adequate information. I don't want to intrude on your family celebration any longer, but I do want to leave you with one final thought. In my 30 years of pediatric medicine, I have rarely encountered research that has had such immediate and profound impact on patient outcomes. Dr. Thompson's work represents exactly the kind of scientific breakthrough that reminds us why scientific research deserves our support and respect. As Dr. Carter excuses himself and walks toward his own vehicle, Emma's family stands in the parking lot processing information that fundamentally challenges their understanding of her life and career choices. The celebratory mood from Jessica's engagement dinner has been replaced with something more complex and uncertain, as if the familiar family narrative had suddenly become unreliable. Patricia fidgets with her purse strap while Robert continues staring at the spot where Dr. Carter's car was parked, both of them clearly struggling to integrate this new information with their long-standing assumptions. Jessica breaks the silence by addressing Emma directly, her voice carrying genuine curiosity mixed with what might be embarrassment about her previous lack of awareness. "Emma, why didn't you ever tell us that your research was helping sick children? When you talked about your laboratory work, you made it sound like basic research that might someday lead to practical applications. You never mentioned that hospitals were already using treatments you developed or that children were actually being cured because of your work."
Role in maintaining the distance between her professional and family identities. How much of her family's ignorance about her work stems from their lack of interest, and how much from her own reluctance to fully explain achievements they might not understand or appreciate. The answer likely involves elements of both, creating a complex dynamic that has evolved over years of careful navigation and protective strategies. Emma takes a deep breath before responding, her voice carrying a mixture of defensiveness and resignation. "I tried to explain my research many times, but the conversations always seemed to turn toward how I should be focusing on more practical goals or following Jessica's example in building a traditional career. After a while, it became easier to just give general answers about laboratory work rather than risk having my research dismissed as irrelevant or impractical." Patricia's face shows visible conflict as she processes Emma's response, her maternal instincts warring with her recognition that she may have contributed to her daughter's reluctance to share important aspects of her life. The parking lot conversation has revealed not just Emma's professional achievements, but also the family communication patterns that kept those achievements invisible for so long. The revelation carries implications that extend far beyond tonight's surprise encounter with Dr. Carter. Robert removes his glasses again and rubs his eyes, a gesture that Emma recognizes as his way of processing information that requires him to reconsider fundamental assumptions. When he speaks, his voice carries a note of uncertainty that she rarely hears from her usually confident father. "Emma, I need to ask you something directly.
Are you telling us that while we've been worried about your career prospects and encouraging you to find more stable work, you've actually been conducting internationally recognized medical research that's saving children's lives around the world? The directness of his question cuts through years of careful conversational avoidance and forces Emma to state clearly what she's never been able to communicate effectively within the context of family dynamics. Her response will either bridge the gap between her professional and personal identities or potentially widen it further, depending on how her parents choose to interpret and respond to information that challenges their long-held beliefs about her character and capabilities. "Yes, Dad," Emma says simply, her voice steady despite the emotional weight of the moment. "For the past 3 years, I've been working on research that has led to life-saving treatments for children with rare genetic diseases. The work is challenging and often frustrating, but it's also meaningful in ways that I've never been able to adequately explain. Dr. Carter wasn't exaggerating when he said my research has helped save over 1,000 children's lives worldwide." The numbers hang in the air between them, concrete and undeniable in a way that transcends the vague descriptions Emma has offered during previous family conversations about her work. 1,000 lives represents a scale of impact that even her practically minded parents can understand and appreciate, regardless of their unfamiliarity with the scientific methods that made such impact possible. Jessica moves closer to Emma, her expression showing a mixture of admiration and regret that suggests she's beginning to understand how thoroughly she's misunderstood her sister's life and career. Her voice carries genuine emotion as she speaks. "Emma, I feel terrible that I never realized what you were actually accomplishing. I've been so focused on my own career and comparing our different paths that I never took the time to really understand what your research involved or why it mattered to you." The admission opens a space for honest conversation that has rarely existed between the sisters, despite their generally cordial relationship. Jessica's recognition of her own lack of awareness creates an opportunity for Emma to explain not just her professional work, but also the emotional isolation she's experienced within a family that seemed unable or unwilling to recognize her achievements or understand her motivations. Patricia steps forward, her usual confident demeanor replaced by visible uncertainty as she struggles to find appropriate words for a situation she's never encountered before. Her voice comes out smaller than usual, lacking the authoritative tone that typically characterizes her interactions with both daughters. "Emma, I don't understand why you never corrected us when we suggested your laboratory work wasn't practical or meaningful. If you were conducting important medical research, why did you let us continue thinking you were just avoiding real responsibility?" The question reveals Patricia's genuine confusion about the communication breakdown that has characterized their family relationship for years, though it also suggests she hasn't fully grasped her own role in creating an environment where Emma felt safer minimizing her achievements than risking their dismissal or incomprehension. Emma recognizes this as a critical moment that could lead to genuine understanding or further entrench existing patterns of misunderstanding and defensive blame. Emma considers her response carefully, knowing that her words could shape the future trajectory of her family relationships. "Mom, every time I tried to explain my research in detail, the conversation would shift to concerns about my financial security or suggestions that I should follow Jessica's example in building a more traditional career. After a while, it became easier to avoid conflict by giving vague answers rather than risk having work that means everything to me dismissed as impractical or self-indulgent." The explanation forces Patricia to confront the possibility that her well-intentioned concerns about Emma's future may have inadvertently discouraged her daughter from sharing the very achievements that demonstrated her success and professional accomplishment. This recognition carries uncomfortable implications about other aspects of their relationship and communication patterns that may need to be examined and potentially changed. Robert shifts his weight from one foot to the other, his discomfort with emotional conversations evident in his body language, as he attempts to process information that requires him to fundamentally reconsider his understanding of his younger daughter. His factory supervisor instincts push him toward practical questions that might help him grasp the concrete implications of Emma's professional achievements. Emma, when Dr. Carter mentioned international conferences and hospitals adopting your treatments, what does that actually mean in terms of your career? Are you recognized as an expert in your field? Do other scientists respect your work? The questions reveal Robert's genuine attempt to understand Emma's
professional status, using frameworks he can comprehend, though they also suggest he's still struggling to fully grasp the significance of what she's accomplished. Emma recognizes this as an opportunity to bridge the gap between her scientific work and her father's practical worldview, potentially creating a foundation for improved communication and understanding. Dad, I've been invited to present my research at medical conferences in Boston, London, and Geneva, Emma explains, her voice gaining confidence as she describes achievements she's never felt comfortable sharing within the family context. The journal article Dr. Carter showed you has been cited over 300 times by other researchers, which means my work is being used as a foundation for additional studies. Hospitals in 22 countries have implemented the treatment protocols I developed, and I regularly receive consultation requests from pediatric specialists around the world. The specific details provide concrete evidence of professional recognition that Robert can understand and appreciate, even if the scientific content remains somewhat abstract to him. Emma watches her father process this information, his expression showing the kind of careful consideration he applies to complex manufacturing problems that require systematic analysis and practical solutions. Patricia looks between her husband and daughters, clearly recognizing that this parking lot conversation has revealed significant gaps in her understanding of Emma's life and career that will require time and effort to address properly. Her voice carries a note of determination mixed with uncertainty as she speaks. I think we need to have a much longer conversation about your work and what it means to you. Obviously, we've been missing important aspects of your life, and that needs to change. The acknowledgement represents a significant shift from Patricia's usual confidence in her understanding of both daughters' lives and career prospects, though Emma remains cautious about assuming this moment of recognition will necessarily lead to lasting changes in their family dynamics. Years of careful emotional protection have taught her to be skeptical of sudden transformations in long-established relationship patterns. Uncle Tom, who has been observing the family conversation with a detached interest of someone who loves them but isn't directly involved in their daily dynamics, finally offers his perspective with characteristic directness. Maybe this is a good reminder that we should listen more carefully when people we love try to tell us about things that matter to them, even if we don't immediately understand the importance or value of what they're describing. His words carried gentle reproach for the family's failure to recognize Emma's achievements, but also offer a constructive framework for moving forward that focuses on improved communication, rather than assigning blame for past misunderstandings. Emma appreciates her uncle's ability to identify the core issue while suggesting a positive path toward resolution. The parking lot around them has largely emptied, as other restaurant patrons have departed for home, leaving the Thompson family standing under the streetlights processing information that has fundamentally altered their understanding of one member's life and career. The celebration of Jessica's engagement has been overshadowed by revelations about Emma's professional achievements, creating an unexpected shift in family dynamics that will require time and careful attention to navigate successfully. Jessica glances at her watch and then addresses the group with the practical leadership skills that have served her well in her marketing career. I think we should plan another family dinner soon, one where we can focus on really understanding Emma's work and celebrating her achievements properly. Tonight was supposed to be about my engagement, but I realize we have a lot of catching up to do regarding Emma's accomplishments. The suggestion provides a constructive way to move forward while acknowledging both the significance of tonight's revelations and the need for more detailed conversation in a setting designed specifically for that purpose. Emma feels grateful for her sister's graceful handling of a situation that could have created awkward competition for family attention and recognition. As the family prepares to return to their separate homes, Emma realizes that Dr. Carter's unexpected appearance has created possibilities for improved family relationships that didn't exist an hour ago. Whether those possibilities develop into meaningful changes will depend on everyone's willingness to communicate more openly and listen more carefully than they have in the past. The evening has ended very differently than anyone expected, but perhaps that unexpected conclusion offers the best hope for positive transformation in their family dynamics. The drive back to her Portland apartment feels surreal as Emma navigates the familiar highway route while her mind processes the evening's unexpected revelations. The dashboard clock shows nearly midnight, but sleep seems impossible after watching her parents' worldview shift so dramatically in a restaurant parking lot. Her phone sits silent on the passenger seat, though she expects it might start ringing once her family has time to fully absorb what Dr. Carter told them about her research. The city lights blur past her windows as she considers whether tonight's conversation might actually lead to meaningful changes in their relationship dynamics. Emma's apartment building stands quiet in the late-night darkness, most residents already asleep as she climbs the stairs to her third-floor unit. The hallway smells faintly of coffee and cleaning products, familiar scents that usually provide comfort after long days at the Research Institute. Tonight, however, even her personal sanctuary feels different, as if Dr. Carter's words have somehow altered the fundamental nature of her identity and the careful separation she's maintained between her professional and family lives. Scientific journals stack neatly on her coffee table, their covers featuring complex molecular diagrams and technical terminology that would seem like foreign language to Patricia and Robert Thompson. Her laptop sits open to a research database where she tracks treatment outcomes from hospitals worldwide, a digital window into the global impact of work her family has consistently dismissed as practical dreaming.
Parents' curiosity without inviting the kind of detailed discussion that might reveal how thoroughly they've misunderstood her career. Tonight's encounter with Dr. Carter has shattered that protective strategy, forcing her to confront the possibility that honest communication might actually be possible. Her phone finally breaks the silence with a text message from Jessica, sent just minutes after they all departed from Tony's Italian kitchen. The message reads simply, "Emma, I can't stop thinking about what that doctor said. Can we talk tomorrow? I want to understand your work better." The words carry genuine warmth and curiosity that Emma rarely hears from family members regarding her professional life, suggesting that tonight's revelations might have created opportunities for improved relationships she's never dared to hope for. Emma responds with cautious optimism, agreeing to meet Jessica for coffee the following afternoon while wondering whether her sister's newfound interest will survive the sobering reality of complex biochemical research and the demanding schedule required to pursue meaningful scientific breakthroughs. Years of family interactions have taught Emma to be skeptical of sudden expressions of support that might evaporate once the initial novelty wears off, and people realize that understanding her work requires sustained attention and genuine intellectual curiosity. The wine helps Emma relax as she considers the various ways her family relationships might evolve following tonight's unexpected encounter with Dr. Carter. The most optimistic scenario involves her parents developing genuine appreciation for her professional achievements and learning to support her career choices with the same enthusiasm they've always shown for Jessica's business success. The most pessimistic possibility suggests they might dismiss Dr. Carter's assessment as professional courtesy rather than genuine recognition, maintaining their existing beliefs about Emma's practical career choices. Saturday morning arrives with gray Seattle weather that matches Emma's uncertain mood as she prepares for her coffee meeting with Jessica. She chooses her outfit carefully, wanting to present herself as the competent professional Dr. Carter described, while remaining approachable enough for honest family conversation. The balance feels delicate, requiring her to navigate between the confident researcher she's become and the uncertain daughter who still seeks family approval, despite years of evidence that such approval might never materialize. The coffee shop Jessica selected sits in a trendy Portland neighborhood that reflects her sister's preference for stylish, Instagram-worthy locations that enhance her carefully curated social media presence. Emma arrives early and claims a quiet corner table where they can speak privately without interruption from other customers or the espresso machine's periodic grinding noises. She orders her usual black coffee and settles in to wait, unsure whether this conversation will bridge the gap between sisters or simply reveal how fundamentally different their perspectives on success and fulfillment have become. Jessica enters precisely on time, her punctuality reflecting the business discipline that has earned their parents' consistent praise and professional advancement within her marketing firm. She's dressed in weekend casual clothes that still manage to look professionally polished, a skill Emma has never mastered despite years of observing her sister's effortless ability to project competence and social awareness in every situation. Jessica's smile seems genuine as she approaches the table, though Emma detects underlying tension that suggests this conversation carries significant emotional weight for both of them. After ordering her complicated specialty drink that involves multiple flavor additions and precise milk temperature specifications, Jessica settles across from Emma with the focused attention she typically reserves for important business meetings. Her expression shows genuine curiosity mixed with what might be embarrassment about her previous lack of awareness regarding Emma's professional achievements. The conversation begins with small talk about weekend plans and Portland's unpredictable weather patterns, but both sisters recognize they're avoiding the substantial topics that brought them together. Jessica finally addresses the elephant in the room with characteristic directness, her marketing background having taught her to tackle difficult conversations systematically rather than hoping they'll resolve themselves naturally. Emma, I've been thinking about last night since I got home, and I realize I've been a terrible sister when it comes to understanding your work. I know you've tried to explain your research before, but I always seem to tune out when you started talking about laboratories and scientific processes. I want to do better, but I need you to help me understand what you actually do and why it matters so much to you. The admission represents more emotional vulnerability than Emma typically sees from her confident, socially skilled sister, suggesting that Dr. Carter's revelations have genuinely affected Jessica's perception of their relationship dynamics. Emma appreciates the honest acknowledgement while remaining cautious about assuming this moment of awareness will necessarily translate into sustained interest or support. Years of family interactions have taught her to manage expectations carefully when it comes to relatives' capacity for understanding work that exists outside their immediate experience or professional interests. Emma begins with basic explanation of Krabbe disease, describing how this rare genetic condition affects children by preventing their bodies from producing essential enzymes needed for healthy nervous system development. She explains how affected children typically experience progressive neurological deterioration that leads to death within the first few years of life, making early diagnosis and treatment absolutely critical for positive outcomes. Jessica listens intently, occasionally asking clarifying questions that demonstrate genuine effort to understand complex medical concepts despite her lack of scientific background. The conversation gains momentum as Emma describes her research methodology, explaining how she identified specific enzyme deficiencies that characterize Krabbe disease and developed laboratory techniques for producing replacement enzymes that can be administered to affected children through regular medical treatments. Jessica's business background helps her grasp the logistical challenges involved in developing treatments that must be manufactured consistently, tested rigorously, and distributed to hospitals worldwide while maintaining strict quality control standards throughout the entire process.
You identified an unmet market need, developed a solution that addresses that need, tested the solution to ensure it works effectively, and then scaled production and distribution to reach customers worldwide. The fact that your customers are sick children rather than business clients doesn't change the fundamental innovation and execution skills required to make the project successful. The business analogy helps Jessica understand Emma's work in terms she can appreciate and respect, though Emma feels slightly uncomfortable reducing life-saving medical research to market-driven product development. Nevertheless, she recognizes that Jessica's attempt to connect Emma's scientific work to familiar business concepts represents genuine effort to bridge their different professional worlds and find common ground for improved communication and mutual understanding.
Emma elaborates on the emotional aspects of her research that extend far beyond the technical challenges of enzyme production and quality control. She describes the photographs of affected children that cover her laboratory bulletin board, images sent by families whose lives have been transformed by access to effective treatment options. These children serve as daily reminders of why she tolerates the long hours, frequent experimental failures, and professional isolation that characterize medical research focused on rare diseases with limited commercial potential. The hardest part isn't the scientific complexity or even the long hours, Emma explains, her voice carrying emotion she rarely allows herself to express. It's knowing that every day we delay in developing better treatments means more children will die from diseases that might be preventable or curable if we just understood them better. When I read emails from parents describing their child's progress after starting enzyme replacement therapy, it makes every frustrating experiment and failed hypothesis worthwhile. Jessica reaches across the table and touches Emma's hand, a gesture of sisterly support that feels genuine despite years of emotional distance between them. Her eyes showed tears as she processes the human impact of Emma's research beyond the technical achievements that impressed Dr. Carter and the medical community. Emma, I had no idea you were carrying such emotional weight alongside all the scientific responsibility. How do you handle the pressure of knowing that children's lives depend on your research success? The question forces Emma to articulate feelings she's never shared with family members, partly because no one has ever asked, and partly because she's learned to compartmentalize the emotional aspects of her work to maintain professional effectiveness. She describes the support systems she's developed among research colleagues who understand the unique psychological challenges of pursuing medical breakthroughs that directly affect patient outcomes. These relationships provide emotional sustenance that her family connections have never offered, creating professional bonds that often feel more supportive than her personal relationships. Emma explains how her research team maintains motivation during inevitable periods of experimental failure and disappointing results by focusing on incremental progress rather than expecting dramatic breakthroughs. Each successful experiment, even if it doesn't lead directly to treatment improvements, contributes valuable knowledge that helps other researchers build upon existing understanding. The collaborative nature of medical research means that Emma's work exists within a global community of scientists pursuing similar goals through different methodological approaches. We celebrate small victories, Emma continues, describing laboratory culture that Jessica finds surprisingly similar to her marketing team's approach to long-term campaign development. Successfully purifying a new enzyme batch, identifying a promising compound for further testing, or receiving positive feedback from hospital implementing our protocols. These incremental achievements maintain momentum during the months or years between major breakthroughs that capture public attention and media coverage. Jessica nods with understanding, recognizing parallels between Emma's description of research methodology and her own experience developing marketing campaigns that require sustained effort over extended periods before producing measurable results. The comparison helps her appreciate the professional discipline and emotional resilience required to pursue scientific work that might not yield immediate gratification or recognition. Her respect for Emma's career choices grows as she begins to understand the combination of intellectual rigor and emotional strength required to succeed in medical research. The conversation shifts toward family dynamics as Jessica acknowledges her role in perpetuating comparisons that may have contributed to Emma's reluctance to share professional achievements. She admits that her own insecurity about academic limitations may have made her overly defensive about the practical value of business skills compared to scientific research. This competitive dynamic, combined with their parents' obvious preference for Jessica's more traditional career path, created a family environment where Emma's intellectual achievements were consistently undervalued or dismissed as impractical indulgence. "I think I felt threatened by your academic success," Jessica admits, her voice showing vulnerability that Emma rarely hears from her confident sister. "Mom and Dad always praised my practical skills and business sense, but I knew you were smarter than me in ways that really matter. Maybe I encouraged their focus on my achievements because it was easier than acknowledging that your work might be more important than mine in the long run. The honest admission creates space for Emma to express her own feelings about their family's comparative dynamics, though she chooses her words carefully to avoid causing unnecessary hurt or resentment. She explains how years of being characterized as the impractical dreamer, while Jessica was celebrated as the responsible achiever, gradually taught her to minimize her own accomplishments to avoid creating family tension or appearing arrogant about intellectual capabilities her parents didn't understand or value. She describes the gradual process of learning to protect her professional identity from family criticism by creating strict boundaries between her research life and her family interactions. This compartmentalization allowed her to pursue meaningful scientific work without constantly defending her career choices against relatives who viewed her research as elaborate procrastination rather than valuable contribution to medical knowledge and patient care. The strategy preserved family relationships while ensuring professional criticism didn't undermine her confidence in the importance of her career choices.
Undermine her confidence or motivation. I stopped trying to explain my research in detail because every conversation seemed to turn into suggestions about finding more stable work or following your example in building a traditional business career, Emma explains, helping Jessica understand how family communication patterns evolved over time. It became easier to give vague answers about laboratory work than to risk having research that means everything to me dismissed as self-indulgent or impractical. Jessica's expression shows genuine remorse as she recognizes how family conversations may have inadvertently discouraged Emma from sharing achievements that deserved celebration and support. The realization carries implications that extend beyond their sisterly relationship to include their parents' communication patterns and the family's overall approach to recognizing and valuing different types of professional success. She begins to understand that changing these dynamics will require sustained effort from everyone involved, not just good intentions following a single moment of recognition. The coffee shop around them has grown busier as Saturday afternoon shoppers and social groups claim tables for extended conversations. But Emma and Jessica remain focused on their own discussion despite increasing background noise and activity. Their conversation has evolved from Jessica's initial curiosity about Emma's research to deeper exploration of family dynamics that have shaped both sisters' professional and personal development over many years. Emma pulls out her phone and shows Jessica photographs from recent medical conferences where she's presented her research findings to international audiences of pediatric specialists and biochemistry researchers. The images reveal a confident, professionally dressed woman addressing rooms full of distinguished medical professionals, a stark contrast to the uncertain daughter their parents see during family gatherings. Jessica studies the photographs with obvious surprise, clearly struggling to reconcile this evidence of Emma's professional recognition with her long-standing perception of her sister as someone avoiding practical responsibility. Emma, you look completely different in these pictures, Jessica observes, examining conference photos that show Emma receiving awards and engaging in animated discussions with other researchers. You seem so confident and authoritative, like you absolutely belong in rooms full of important medical experts. I've never seen you project that kind of professional presence during family events, where you always seem more reserved and uncertain about your accomplishments. The observation highlights how successfully Emma has learned to code switch between her professional and family identities, adapting her self-presentation to match the expectations and comfort levels of different social environments. This adaptive strategy has allowed her to thrive professionally while maintaining family relationships, though it has also prevented her relatives from understanding her true capabilities and achievements. Jessica's recognition of this dynamic creates opportunities for more authentic communication moving forward. Emma explains how she's learned to modulate her professional confidence during family interactions to avoid seeming arrogant or condescending about intellectual achievements her parents might not understand or appreciate. Years of experience have taught her that displaying too much enthusiasm about her research tends to trigger suggestions about finding more practical work or concerns about her financial security and long-term career prospects.
The careful self-management required to navigate these conversations has become automatic, though it creates exhausting psychological pressure to constantly monitor her own behavior. I've become expert at downplaying my work to avoid making family conversations uncomfortable, Emma admits, helping Jessica understand the emotional labor involved in maintaining family relationships while pursuing professional goals that diverge from her relatives' expectations. After a while, it became easier to let you all assume I was still figuring out my career direction, rather than risk having meaningful work dismissed as impractical or self-indulgent. Jessica shakes her head with obvious regret, beginning to understand how family dynamics have required Emma to choose between authentic self-expression and harmonious relationships. The recognition that their parents' well-intentioned concerns may have inadvertently discouraged Emma from sharing professional achievements creates uncomfortable awareness about communication patterns that will need to change if their family hopes to develop more supportive and understanding relationships moving forward. The afternoon light filtering through the coffee shop windows has shifted as their conversation extends well beyond the casual catch-up session Jessica originally envisioned. Both sisters recognize that they've uncovered family dynamics that require sustained attention and effort to address constructively, though they also feel optimistic about possibilities for improved communication and mutual understanding that didn't exist before Dr. Carter's unexpected appearance in the restaurant parking lot. Emma describes her plans for upcoming research projects that will extend her enzyme replacement therapy work to additional rare pediatric diseases, potentially helping even more children who currently lack effective treatment options. The scope of her professional ambitions surprises Jessica, who had never realized that Emma's laboratory work extended far beyond single disease focus to encompass broader research program with international collaboration and long-term impact on pediatric medicine worldwide. "You're basically building a research empire," Jessica observes, applying her business perspective to Emma's description of expanding scientific initiatives. Multiple disease targets, international hospital partnerships, collaborative relationships with other research institutions, and a growing reputation that attracts funding and professional opportunities. This sounds like the kind of career trajectory that most people spend decades trying to develop. The business framework helps Jessica appreciate the strategic thinking and long-term planning involved in Emma's scientific career, though Emma feels slightly uncomfortable with empire-building metaphors applied to medical research focused on helping sick children. Nevertheless, she recognizes that Jessica's attempt to understand her work using familiar business concepts represents genuine effort to bridge their different professional perspectives and develop shared vocabulary for discussing career goals and achievements. Emma explains how her research funding comes from multiple sources, including government
Grants, private foundations, and pharmaceutical companies interested in developing commercially viable treatments based on her laboratory discoveries. The complex funding landscape requires her to maintain detailed financial records, submit regular progress reports, and demonstrate measurable outcomes that justify continued investment in her research programs. These administrative responsibilities extend far beyond the scientific work itself, requiring business skills that her parents might appreciate if they understood her professional obligations. Jessica's marketing background helps her understand the communication challenges involved in explaining complex scientific research to diverse audiences, including funding agencies, hospital administrators, patient advocacy groups, and media representatives interested in medical breakthrough stories. Emma describes how she's learned to adapt her presentation style and technical vocabulary to match the knowledge level and interests of different stakeholder groups. Skills that require both scientific expertise and communication abilities her family has never recognized or valued. "You're essentially running a startup focused on medical innovation," Jessica concludes, her voice showing genuine admiration for Emma's professional accomplishments. "You're managing research teams, securing funding, developing products, building partnerships, and communicating with stakeholders across multiple countries and professional communities. The fact that your products save children's lives rather than generating traditional business profits doesn't diminish the leadership and execution skills required to make everything work effectively."
The conversation has revealed aspects of Emma's career that Jessica never understood, despite years of family dinners and holiday gatherings where Emma's work was discussed in vague, general terms. Jessica begins to recognize that her sister's reluctance to provide detailed explanations may have stemmed partly from family members' tendency to tune out when conversations became too technical or unfamiliar, creating communication barriers that discouraged Emma from sharing information about professional achievements that deserved recognition and celebration. As they prepared to conclude their extended coffee shop conversation, both sisters acknowledge that rebuilding their relationship will require sustained effort and patience from everyone involved in their family dynamics. The insights gained during this afternoon discussion provide foundation for improved communication, but translating those insights into lasting changes will depend on their parents' willingness to listen more carefully and Emma's courage to share more openly about work that defines her professional identity and personal values. Jessica reaches across the table and squeezes Emma's hand with genuine sisterly affection, her eyes showing tears as she processes the full implications of their conversation. Emma, I'm so sorry that our family made you feel like you had to hide such incredible achievements. You should be getting ticker tape parades for saving children's lives, not skeptical questions about when you're going to find stable work. I want to do better as your sister, and I think Mom and Dad need to understand how wrong they've been about your career. The emotional acknowledgement creates possibilities for family healing that Emma has never dared to hope for, though she remains cautiously optimistic about whether this moment of recognition will translate into sustained changes in family communication patterns and relationship dynamics. Years of careful emotional protection have taught her to manage expectations while remaining open to positive developments that might emerge from honest conversations and genuine efforts to understand different perspectives on success and fulfillment. 3 weeks after the coffee shop conversation with Jessica, Emma receives an unexpected phone call from her mother while organizing research files in her laboratory office. Patricia's voice carries an unfamiliar tone of uncertainty as she asks if Emma might have time to visit Millfield the following weekend for what she describes as an important family discussion. The formal invitation surprises Emma, who has grown accustomed to casual drop-in visits and last-minute dinner invitations that assume her availability without much advance notice or consideration for her professional schedule. The drive from Portland to Millfield on Saturday morning feels different this time, charged with possibilities Emma has never allowed herself to imagine. Her parents' house looks exactly the same from the outside, with its neat suburban lawn and carefully maintained flower beds that reflect Patricia's attention to appearances and community reputation. However, Emma senses something has shifted in the family dynamics since Dr. Carter's unexpected revelation about her professional achievements and international recognition in the medical research community. Inside the familiar living room, Emma notices subtle changes that suggest her parents have been thinking seriously about their relationship with both daughters. The coffee table displays several printed articles about pediatric medicine and enzyme replacement therapy, their margins filled with handwritten notes in her mother's careful script. A small stack of medical journals sits beside Patricia's usual collection of home decorating magazines, suggesting genuine effort to understand the scientific context of Emma's research work and its significance within the broader medical community. Robert approaches the conversation with the systematic methodology he applies to complex manufacturing problems, having prepared a list of specific questions about Emma's research process and professional responsibilities. His factory supervisor instincts push him toward understanding the practical aspects of medical research that he can relate to his own experience managing production teams and quality control procedures. Emma appreciates his structured approach, recognizing it as his way of demonstrating genuine interest while working within his existing knowledge framework. Emma, your mother and I have been doing some reading about your research field. Robert begins, gesturing toward the medical journals and printed articles scattered across the coffee table. We're starting to understand that what you do is much more complex and important than we realized. We want to apologize for not taking the time to learn about your work sooner, and we'd like you to help us understand what your research actually involves and why it matters to you. The formal apology surprises Emma with its directness and apparent sincerity, though years of careful emotional protection make her cautious about assuming this conversation will necessarily lead to lasting changes in their family communication patterns and relationship dynamics. She settles into the familiar couch, mentally preparing for a discussion that requires both intellectual clarity and an emotional vulnerability she rarely exhibits in her family interactions.
Familiar armchair where she's weathered countless discussions about her career choices and life decisions, noting that this time her parents seemed genuinely prepared to listen rather than offer unsolicited advice about finding more practical work. Patricia opens a notebook filled with questions she's compiled after researching Emma's publications and the medical conditions her research addresses. Her usual confidence has been replaced by obvious uncertainty as she navigates unfamiliar scientific territory, though her determination to understand demonstrates genuine effort to bridge the gap between her existing knowledge and her daughter's professional expertise. Emma recognizes this as unprecedented territory in their relationship, her mother voluntarily placing herself in a learning position rather than maintaining her usual authoritative stance. Emma begins by explaining the basic biology of lysosomal storage disorders, the class of genetic diseases that includes Krabbe disease and several other conditions affecting children worldwide. She describes how these diseases result from enzyme deficiencies that prevent cells from properly processing essential substances, leading to toxic accumulation that damages organs and tissues throughout the body. Her parents listen intently, occasionally asking clarifying questions that demonstrate genuine effort to understand complex biochemical processes despite their lack of scientific background. The conversation gains momentum as Emma describes her laboratory's approach to developing enzyme replacement therapies, explaining how her team produces missing enzymes using sophisticated biotechnology methods and then develops delivery systems that can transport these therapeutic proteins to affected tissues in living patients. Robert's manufacturing experience helps him grasp the quality control challenges involved in producing biological medicines that must meet strict safety and efficacy standards before they can be administered to sick children. So, you're essentially running a specialized pharmaceutical manufacturing operation within your research institute, Robert observes, applying his industrial framework to Emma's scientific work. You're developing new products, testing them extensively to ensure they work safely and effectively, and then scaling up production to supply hospitals that treat affected patients. The fact that your products are biological rather than mechanical doesn't change the fundamental engineering and management skills required to make the operation successful. Emma nods, appreciating her father's attempt to understand her work using concepts from his own professional experience, though she emphasizes that medical research involves additional complexities related to biological variability and ethical considerations that don't apply to traditional manufacturing processes. Nevertheless, his framework provides useful foundation for explaining aspects of her research that require systematic planning, resource management, and collaborative coordination with multiple professional stakeholders. Patricia's questions focus more on the human impact of Emma's research, reflecting her natural inclination toward personal relationships and emotional connections. She wants to understand how Emma maintains motivation during inevitable periods of experimental failure and disappointing results, especially when she knows that delayed progress means continued suffering for children who currently lack effective treatment options. Emma explains how her research team maintains psychological resilience by focusing on incremental achievements and celebrating small victories that contribute to long-term progress. Emma shares some of the letters and emails she's received from families whose children have benefited from enzyme replacement therapy based on her research protocols. These personal communications provide concrete evidence of impact that extends far beyond academic publications and conference presentations, demonstrating how laboratory work translates into improved quality of life for real families dealing with devastating medical diagnoses. Patricia wipes away tears as Emma reads excerpts describing children's progress and parents' gratitude for research that has given their families hope and practical help. I never realized that laboratory research could have such direct impact on individual people's lives,
Patricia admits, her voice showing emotion as she processes the human dimension of Emma's professional work. When you talked about working in laboratories, I pictured you isolated from real-world applications, conducting theoretical research that might someday lead to practical benefits. I didn't understand that children are actually receiving treatments you developed and that their families consider you responsible for saving their lives. The acknowledgement represents a fundamental shift in Patricia's understanding of scientific research and its relationship to practical problem solving and community service. Emma recognizes this as significant progress toward family communication that might actually support her career choices rather than consistently questioning their value or urging her toward more traditional professional paths that her parents can understand and appreciate more easily. Emma describes her upcoming presentation at the International Conference on Pediatric Metabolic Disorders, scheduled to take place in Stockholm next month. This invitation represents recognition from the global medical community that her research has achieved international significance, attracting attention from leading researchers and clinicians worldwide who are working to advance treatment options for rare childhood diseases. The opportunity to present her latest findings to this distinguished audience represents a career milestone that few researchers achieve before age 30. Robert asks practical questions about the conference logistics and professional networking opportunities, his business instincts helping him understand the career advancement implications of international recognition and collaborative relationships with prominent medical researchers. Emma explains how these professional connections lead to research partnerships, funding opportunities, and collaborative projects that expand the scope and impact of her work beyond what any single laboratory could accomplish independently. The conversation continues for several hours as Emma's parents work to understand not just the technical aspects of her research, but also the professional context within which her work exists, and the personal motivations that sustain her commitment to pursuing medical breakthroughs that might help children with rare diseases. Their questions become more sophisticated as they begin to grasp the complexity and significance of what she's accomplished, though Emma remains cautious about assuming this single conversation will
permanently change their relationship dynamics. Patricia admits that she's been sharing information about Emma's research with friends and neighbors, discovering that their community includes several families who have children with rare medical conditions that might benefit from the kind of treatments Emma develops. These conversations have helped Patricia understand that her daughter's work addresses real needs affecting families she knows personally, creating emotional connection to Emma's professional achievements that didn't exist when the research seemed abstract and theoretical. Quote, Mrs. Henderson from church mentioned that her grandson was born with a genetic disorder that affects his ability to process certain proteins, Patricia explains, her voice showing newfound appreciation for Emma's research relevance. When I described your work with enzyme replacement therapy, she became very interested and asked if your treatments might help children with conditions similar to what her grandson faces. I realized that your research isn't just academic exercise, but could actually help families in our own community. The personal connection helps Patricia understand Emma's work in terms of community service and practical problem solving rather than abstract intellectual exercise, creating emotional framework that allows her to appreciate the value and importance of medical research in ways that purely technical explanations couldn't achieve. Emma feels grateful for this shift in perspective while remaining realistic about the sustained effort required to maintain improved family communication patterns. As the afternoon progresses, Emma shares more details about her daily work routine and the collaborative relationships that make her research possible. She describes working with clinical teams at children's hospitals, regulatory agencies that oversee medical device approval, patient advocacy organizations that support families affected by rare diseases, and international research networks that share data and resources to accelerate scientific progress across multiple institutions and countries. Robert expresses surprise at the breadth of professional relationships and administrative responsibilities involved in medical research, having previously assumed that laboratory work meant isolated, technical activities with minimal human interaction or business complexity. Emma explains how modern biomedical research requires sophisticated project management, communication skills,
fundraising abilities, and collaborative leadership that extends far beyond the scientific expertise that forms the foundation of her professional qualifications. The family conversation is interrupted by Jessica's arrival with her fiancé, Michael, who has driven down from Salem for what Jessica described as an important family meeting. Emma notices that Jessica has brought a carefully prepared presentation folder containing printed materials about Emma's research achievements, including copies of published articles, conference programs, and news coverage of medical breakthroughs based on her laboratory work. The preparation suggests Jessica has been working to educate both Michael and their parents about Emma's professional accomplishments. Michael's background in engineering helps him quickly grasp the technical complexity and innovative aspects of Emma's research methodology, providing another perspective that reinforces the significance of her achievements while offering practical insights about product development and technology transfer that complement their parents' growing understanding of Emma's professional success. "Emma, this is incredible work," Michael says after reviewing Jessica's presentation materials. "You're essentially developing breakthrough technologies that solve critical medical problems while building intellectual property portfolio that could have significant commercial value. The combination of scientific innovation and practical application represents exactly the kind of research that drives advancement in biotechnology and pharmaceutical industries worldwide." The engineering perspective helps Robert understand Emma's work in terms of technological innovation and practical problem solving, creating additional framework for appreciating her achievements beyond the humanitarian impact that resonates more strongly with Patricia's values and interests. Emma feels grateful for Michael's enthusiastic support, while noting how much easier family acceptance becomes when her work can be explained using concepts that align with her relatives' existing professional knowledge and personal values. Jessica announces that she's been researching venues for a proper celebration of Emma's achievements, suggesting a family gathering that focuses specifically on recognizing her professional accomplishments rather than treating them as secondary considerations during celebrations of other family members' milestones. The proposal represents dramatic shift from previous family dynamics, where Emma's career was consistently overshadowed by Jessica's more traditional professional achievements and personal milestones. Quote, "I think we need to have a party specifically honoring Emma's research breakthrough and international recognition," Jessica declares, her marketing instincts helping her understand the importance of public acknowledgement and celebration in building a family narrative that appropriately values different types of professional success. "We should invite extended family and friends who can learn about Emma's work and understand why we're so proud of her achievements." Patricia immediately begins planning logistics for such a celebration, her event organizing skills shifting into high gear as she considers guest lists, venue options, and presentation formats that would appropriately highlight Emma's professional accomplishments. The enthusiasm represents a complete reversal from her previous dismissive attitude toward Emma's career choices, though Emma remains cautiously optimistic about whether this newfound support will survive the inevitable challenges and setbacks that characterize long-term scientific research. Emma describes her future research plans, including efforts to develop enzyme replacement therapies for additional rare diseases that currently lack effective treatment options. Her laboratory has received funding to pursue treatments for Gaucher disease, Fabry disease, and several other lysosomal storage disorders that affect children worldwide, potentially expanding the impact of her research program to help thousands of additional families dealing with devastating medical diagnoses.
Professional ambition surprises her parents, who had never realized that her research extended beyond single disease focus to encompass broader scientific program with international implications and long-term impact on pediatric medicine worldwide. Robert asks detailed questions about the funding sources and institutional partnerships required to support such ambitious research initiatives, his manufacturing background helping him appreciate the resource management and organizational skills required to coordinate complex multi-year projects. Patricia expresses amazement at the global reach of Emma's professional network, having never understood that her daughter maintains regular communication with medical researchers across multiple continents and serves as consultant for hospitals and pharmaceutical companies developing new treatments for rare pediatric diseases. The international recognition represents level of professional achievement that surpasses anything Patricia previously associated with her supposedly impractical daughter's career choices. As evening approaches, the family conversation naturally evolves toward planning future interactions that will better support Emma's professional development while maintaining strong personal relationships that honor everyone's achievements and contributions. Patricia suggests regular family dinners focused on learning about Emma's current research projects, while Robert proposes visiting her laboratory to observe her work environment and meet colleagues who can provide additional perspective on her professional responsibilities and achievements. Emma feels cautiously optimistic about these proposals, while recognizing that sustained improvement in family dynamics will require consistent effort from everyone involved, rather than good intentions following a single day of intensive conversation. Years of careful emotional protection have taught her to manage expectations while remaining open to positive developments that might emerge from genuine efforts to understand different perspectives on success and professional fulfillment. Jessica and Michael extend invitation for Emma to visit them in Salem and participate in wedding planning activities that acknowledge her importance as family member whose opinions and preferences matter in decisions about celebration details and family traditions. The inclusion represents significant change from previous family dynamics, where Emma's input was rarely sought regarding important family decisions or milestone celebrations. The evening concludes with commitments from all family members to maintain more regular communication about their respective professional activities and personal interests, creating framework for ongoing relationship development that honors different career paths while strengthening family bonds based on mutual respect and genuine understanding. Emma drives back to Portland feeling hopeful about family relationships in ways she hasn't experienced since childhood, though she remains realistic about the sustained effort required to implement positive changes successfully. Over the following months, Emma's family gradually learns to celebrate her professional achievements with the same enthusiasm they've always shown for Jessica's business success. Patricia begins sharing updates about Emma's research with her social circle, taking obvious pride in describing her daughter's international recognition and life-saving medical breakthroughs. Robert asks thoughtful questions about Emma's work during family phone calls, demonstrating genuine interest in understanding her professional challenges and celebrating her accomplishments. The transformation extends beyond immediate family to include extended relatives who begin recognizing Emma's scientific career as valuable contribution to their family legacy and community reputation. Uncle Tom expresses particular satisfaction at seeing his niece's relationship evolve into mutual support and appreciation rather than competitive comparison, noting that both sisters have found professional paths that align with their individual strengths and personal values. Emma receives news that her enzyme replacement therapy protocols have been approved for use in pediatric hospitals across Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia, potentially helping hundreds of additional children who previously lacked access to effective treatments for rare genetic diseases. The international expansion represents a significant milestone in her research impact, extending life-saving medical interventions to underserved populations worldwide who desperately need advanced therapeutic options. The recognition culminates in Emma's selection for the Outstanding Young Researcher Award from the International Society for Pediatric Medicine, an honor that acknowledges her contributions to advancing treatment options for children with rare diseases. The award ceremony, scheduled to take place in Geneva next spring, will provide a platform for Emma to present her latest research findings to a global audience of medical professionals while receiving recognition from the international scientific community. Patricia immediately begins planning family travel to Geneva for the award ceremony, her event organizing skills focusing on logistics for what she now recognizes as one of the most significant achievements in their family's history. The enthusiasm represents complete transformation from her previous dismissive attitude toward Emma's career choices. Though Emma appreciates the support, while maintaining realistic expectations about the ongoing effort required to sustain improved family relationships. Emma's story demonstrates how professional recognition can sometimes bridge gaps in family understanding that years of patient explanation couldn't achieve, though it also highlights the importance of persistent communication and genuine effort from all parties involved in rebuilding damaged relationships. Her journey from family disappointment to international recognition illustrates the complex dynamics that can exist between personal identity and family acceptance, especially when professional achievements occur in fields that family members don't immediately understand or value. The medical breakthrough that saved over 1,000 children's lives worldwide emerged from years of dedicated research that Emma pursued despite minimal family support or understanding, demonstrating the resilience and commitment required to achieve meaningful professional goals in the face of persistent doubt and discouragement from people whose opinions matter most. Her eventual family reconciliation provides hope for others who struggle to balance authentic self-expression with harmonious family relationships, while acknowledging the emotional courage required to maintain professional integrity despite limited external validation.
Validation. Emma's transformation from overlooked family member to celebrated medical researcher occurred gradually through sustained effort and professional excellence, rather than dramatic overnight change, illustrating how genuine achievement often develops quietly over extended periods before receiving public recognition. Her story reminds us that sometimes the people closest to us are the last to recognize our true capabilities and accomplishments, though family relationships can evolve positively when all parties commit to honest communication and mutual understanding. The laboratory where Emma continues her life-saving research now displays photographs from the Geneva Awards ceremony alongside images of children whose lives have been transformed by enzyme replacement therapy, creating a visual reminder of the human impact that motivates her continued scientific work. Her family's journey from misunderstanding to genuine appreciation demonstrates how professional recognition can create opportunities for healing damaged relationships while honoring different definitions of success and meaningful contribution to society. 2 years have passed since that transformative evening at Tony's Italian Kitchen, and Emma Thompson stands at the podium of the World Health Organization headquarters in Geneva, addressing an audience of 500 medical professionals from 63 countries. The auditorium buzzes with anticipatory energy as she prepares to deliver the keynote presentation on breakthrough treatments for rare pediatric diseases, her research now recognized as fundamentally changing how the global medical community approaches previously incurable genetic disorders affecting children worldwide. In the third row of the prestigious venue, Patricia and Robert Thompson sit with obvious pride radiating from their faces as they watch their daughter command the attention of the world's leading pediatric specialists and biomedical researchers. Patricia wears the pearl necklace Emma gave her for Christmas 3 years ago, though this time she displays it with genuine appreciation rather than polite dismissal. Robert has traded his factory supervisor uniform for his best suit, his calloused hands folded respectfully as he prepares to hear Emma explain research that has revolutionized treatment protocols at over 400 hospitals across 6 continents. Jessica and her husband Michael occupy seats directly beside Emma's parents, their presence representing family unity that seemed impossible during those difficult years when Emma's achievements went unrecognized and unappreciated within her own household. Jessica holds a professionally bound presentation folder containing copies of every article, award notification, and international recognition Emma has received over the past 24 months, documentation she's compiled to share with extended family members who still struggle to fully comprehend the magnitude of Emma's professional accomplishments. The transformation in family dynamics has been gradual but profound, with Emma's parents investing considerable time and effort to understand not just the technical aspects of her research, but also the broader context of medical innovation and its impact on global healthcare systems. Patricia has become something of a local expert on rare pediatric diseases, regularly sharing information about Emma's work with friends and neighbors, while volunteering for patient advocacy organizations that support families dealing with genetic disorders affecting their children. Robert has applied his manufacturing expertise to help Emma optimize laboratory efficiency and resource management, his industrial background providing valuable perspective on scaling up enzyme production processes to meet increasing global demand for treatments based on her research protocols. Their collaboration has strengthened their relationship while demonstrating how different professional skill sets can complement each other in pursuing shared goals that benefit both scientific advancement and practical problem solving. Emma begins her presentation by acknowledging the collaborative nature of medical research, recognizing the contributions of clinical teams, regulatory agencies, patient advocacy groups, and international research networks that have made widespread implementation of enzyme replacement therapy possible. Her words reflect both scientific humility and professional confidence, demonstrating how her communication skills have evolved to match her technical expertise and global reputation within the pediatric medicine community. The presentation includes compelling case studies that illustrate how enzyme replacement therapy has transformed treatment outcomes for children previously facing terminal diagnoses within their first few years of life.
Emma shares photographs and video testimonials from families whose children are now living healthy, normal lives thanks to treatments developed in her laboratory, providing concrete evidence of impact that extends far beyond academic publications and conference presentations to touch real families dealing with devastating medical challenges. Dr. Michael Carter, the physician whose unexpected appearance at Jessica's engagement celebration triggered the family's recognition of Emma's achievements, has flown from Portland specifically to attend this international presentation. He sits in the front row with obvious satisfaction, having watched Emma's professional reputation grow from regional recognition to global prominence within the specialized field of pediatric metabolic disorders and therapeutic enzyme development. Following Emma's presentation, Dr. Carter approaches the podium during the question and answer session to provide clinical perspective on the practical implementation of her research protocols. His comments emphasize how Emma's work has simplified treatment procedures while improving patient outcomes, making previously complex therapeutic interventions accessible to hospitals with varying levels of specialized resources and technical capabilities. The audience of medical professionals responds to Emma's presentation with sustained applause that reflects genuine appreciation for research that has directly impacted their ability to help young patients and their families. Several prominent pediatric specialists approached the podium afterward to discuss collaborative opportunities and potential applications of Emma's methodology to additional rare diseases that currently lack effective treatment options. Emma's parents observed these professional interactions with amazement, finally understanding the level of respect and recognition their daughter commands within the international medical community. Patricia approaches Dr. Carter during the reception following the presentation, thanking him for his role in helping their family
Recognize Emma's achievements and acknowledge the significance of work they had previously dismissed as impractical academic pursuit. Dr. Carter, I want you to know that your words in that restaurant parking lot 2 years ago changed our entire family's understanding of Emma's career and her contributions to medical science, Patricia says, her voice carrying genuine gratitude mixed with embarrassment about their previous lack of awareness. We had no idea that our daughter was conducting research that was saving children's lives around the world, and I'm ashamed that it took a stranger's recognition to make us pay attention to her incredible achievements. Dr. Carter responds with professional grace while gently noting that Emma's reluctance to discuss her achievements in detail likely stemmed from years of family conversations that seemed to minimize the value of scientific research and encourage her to pursue more traditional career paths. His observation helps Patricia understand how family communication patterns may have inadvertently discouraged Emma from sharing professional accomplishments that deserved celebration and support, rather than the skeptical questioning about practical applications. The Geneva Conference provides Emma with opportunities to establish new collaborative relationships with research institutions across Europe, Asia, and South America, expanding her professional network to include leading scientists pursuing similar goals through different methodological approaches. These international partnerships will enable her laboratory to access additional funding sources, share resources and expertise, and coordinate research efforts that could accelerate development of treatments for rare diseases affecting children worldwide. Robert engages in detailed conversations with pharmaceutical industry representatives who attend the conference to identify promising research developments that might warrant commercial investment and large-scale production capabilities. His manufacturing background helps him understand the business considerations involved in translating laboratory discoveries into widely available medical treatments, though he's learned to appreciate the complex regulatory and ethical frameworks that govern medical device development and approval processes. Emma's presentation attracts attention from medical journalists covering the conference for major healthcare publications and international news organizations, leading to interview requests that will bring additional visibility to her research while educating broader audiences about rare pediatric diseases and the importance of continued investment in biomedical research focused on underserved patient populations. The media coverage represents significant milestone in Emma's professional development, transitioning from recognition within specialized scientific communities to broader public awareness that could influence healthcare policy decisions and research funding priorities. Patricia expresses obvious pride when friends and neighbors mention seeing Emma's research featured in national news coverage, though she's learned to focus on the humanitarian impact rather than seeking personal recognition for having raised such an accomplished daughter. During a quiet moment between conference sessions,
Emma and Jessica walk through Geneva's historic district while discussing how their relationship has evolved since that transformative family conversation in the coffee shop 2 years earlier. Jessica admits that learning about Emma's professional achievements initially made her question the value of her own business career, though she's come to understand that both sisters have found meaningful ways to contribute to their communities through different types of professional service. Emma, I used to think that marketing insurance products was practical and valuable, while your laboratory research seemed abstract and disconnected from real-world problems, Jessica reflects as they stroll beside Lake Geneva. Now I understand that your work addresses life and death challenges affecting families worldwide, while my career focuses on helping people prepare for financial uncertainties they hope will never occur. Both types of work serve important purposes, though yours clearly has more dramatic and immediate impact on people's lives. The conversation reveals how Jessica has processed the recognition of Emma's achievements without diminishing her own professional accomplishments, finding ways to appreciate different definitions of success and meaningful contribution to society. Their sisterly relationship has evolved from competitive comparison to mutual support and genuine interest in each other's professional challenges and personal goals. Emma describes her plans for expanding research into additional rare diseases that currently lack effective treatment options, including several conditions that affect older children and adolescents rather than infants and toddlers. The broader research program will require significant additional funding and institutional support, though Emma's track record of successful treatment development has positioned her laboratory as an attractive partner for international collaborations and commercial investments. Jessica's marketing background helps her understand the communication challenges involved in building public support for rare disease research, particularly when affected patient populations are too small to generate significant political or economic influence. Emma explains how patient advocacy organizations play crucial roles in raising awareness and funding for research into conditions that might otherwise receive minimal attention from major pharmaceutical companies focused on more commercially viable therapeutic areas. The sisters' conversation is interrupted by a arrival of Uncle Tom, who has flown from Ohio specifically to attend Emma's presentation and witness her recognition by the international medical community. His presence represents family support that Emma never dared to hope for during those difficult years when her career choices seemed to generate only skeptical concern about her practical judgment and long-term financial security. Uncle Tom expresses genuine amazement at the scope and impact of Emma's professional achievements, though he admits that he always suspected she possessed exceptional intellectual capabilities that deserved better recognition and support from family members. His validation carries particular emotional weight for Emma, who has always appreciated his straightforward communication style and his willingness to challenge family dynamics that seemed unfair or unreasonable. Emma, I'm proud of you for persisting with your research despite the lack of family understanding and support. It took real courage to pursue meaningful
Work when the people closest to you seemed unable to recognize its value or importance. You've proven that sometimes we need to trust our own judgment about what constitutes worthwhile professional contribution, even when others question our choices. The acknowledgement helps Emma process her own journey from family disappointment to international recognition, recognizing how her persistence in pursuing meaningful research, despite limited external validation, has ultimately led to both professional success and improved family relationships. The experience has taught her valuable lessons about maintaining authentic self-expression while working to bridge gaps in understanding that may exist between personal identity and family acceptance. Emma's parents join the dinner conversation with obvious enthusiasm about her future research plans and the potential for additional medical breakthroughs that could help even more children facing devastating genetic diseases. Patricia asks thoughtful questions about the scientific methodology involved in identifying new therapeutic targets, while Robert inquires about the resource management and collaborative partnerships required to coordinate complex, multi-year research initiatives across multiple institutions and countries. The family discussion reveals how much Emma's parents have learned about biomedical research and its relationship to practical healthcare delivery, though they acknowledge that developing genuine understanding has required sustained effort and willingness to step outside their existing knowledge frameworks. Patricia admits that she initially found scientific terminology intimidating and abstract, making it difficult to appreciate the practical applications and humanitarian impact of Emma's laboratory work. I realize now that I was intimidated by your intelligence and expertise in areas I didn't understand, Patricia confesses to Emma during a particularly honest moment in their dinner conversation. Rather than admitting my ignorance and asking you to help me learn about your research, I dismissed it as impractical because that seemed easier than confronting my own limitations. I'm sorry that my defensive response prevented me from recognizing and celebrating your incredible achievements for so many years. The apology represents significant emotional growth for Patricia, who has traditionally maintained confident authority in family discussions rather than acknowledging uncertainty or requesting help in understanding complex topics. Emma appreciates her mother's honesty, while recognizing that rebuilding damaged relationships requires ongoing effort from all parties rather than single moments of recognition or apology. Robert shares his own reflections about how his manufacturing background initially made him skeptical of research work that didn't produce immediate, tangible results according to timelines and quality metrics he understood from industrial production processes. Learning about the extended development cycles and iterative methodology required for medical research has helped him appreciate different approaches to problem solving and innovation that may not align with traditional business frameworks, but nevertheless produce valuable outcomes. The family discussion extends into evening hours as Emma describes her vision for establishing a dedicated research center focused specifically on rare pediatric diseases, with facilities designed to optimize both scientific investigation and clinical collaboration with hospitals treating affected children. The ambitious project would require substantial funding and institutional partnerships, though Emma's professional reputation and demonstrated success have positioned her to pursue such significant expansion of her research program. Jessica immediately begins brainstorming marketing and communication strategies that could help Emma build public support for the research center proposal, applying her business expertise to support her sister's scientific goals in ways that complement rather than compete with Emma's professional capabilities. Their collaborative approach demonstrates how different skill sets can strengthen each other when family members choose mutual support over competitive comparison. Emma expresses gratitude for her family's transformation from skeptical concern about her career choices to enthusiastic support for ambitious professional goals that could have global impact on pediatric healthcare. The journey has required patience, persistence, and emotional resilience from everyone involved, though the positive outcomes justify the sustained effort required to rebuild damaged relationships based on improved communication and genuine understanding. The Geneva Conference concludes with Emma receiving invitations to present her research at additional international venues over the coming year, including conferences in Tokyo, Sydney, and Toronto, that will provide platforms for sharing her latest findings while building collaborative relationships with researchers pursuing complementary work in pediatric medicine and therapeutic enzyme development. Emma's growing international reputation creates opportunities for her laboratory to access increased funding from government agencies, private foundations, and pharmaceutical companies interested in supporting research with demonstrated potential for developing commercially viable treatments. The financial resources will enable expansion of her research team and investigation of additional rare diseases that currently lack effective therapeutic options. The flight home to the United States provides quiet time for Emma to reflect on how dramatically her professional and personal circumstances have changed since that unexpected encounter with Dr. Carter in the restaurant parking lot 2 years earlier. Her family's journey from misunderstanding to genuine appreciation demonstrates how relationships can evolve positively when all parties commit to honest communication and sustained effort to understand different perspectives on success and meaningful contribution. Emma's story illustrates the complex dynamics that can exist between professional achievement and family acceptance, particularly when career paths diverge from traditional expectations or occur in specialized fields that family members may not immediately understand or value. Her experience demonstrates both the emotional courage required to pursue authentic self-expression despite limited external validation, and the possibility that persistent excellence can eventually bridge gaps in understanding that initially seem insurmountable. The medical breakthroughs that have saved over 1,500 children's lives worldwide emerged from years of dedicated research that Emma pursued despite minimal family support, illustrating how meaningful professional goals sometimes require internal motivation and personal conviction that transcends external approval or recognition. Her eventual family reconciliation provides hope for others who struggle to balance professional integrity with harmonious personal relationships. Emma returns to her Portland laboratory with renewed energy, an expanded vision for research programs that could help thousands of additional children facing rare genetic diseases. The international recognition and family support she now enjoys create foundation for pursuing even more ambitious scientific goals, though she remains grounded in the daily laboratory work and patient advocacy that originally motivated her career choice. The photographs covering Emma's laboratory bulletin board now include images from the Geneva conference, alongside pictures of children whose lives have been transformed by enzyme replacement therapy, creating visual reminder of both professional achievement and humanitarian impact that continues to drive her scientific work. Her journey from overlooked family member to internationally recognized medical researcher demonstrates how genuine contribution to society can eventually receive appropriate recognition, even when initial understanding and support seem unlikely. The research center proposal that Emma plans to develop over the coming months represents natural evolution of her scientific career, expanding from individual laboratory work to institutional leadership that could coordinate rare disease research across multiple universities and medical centers worldwide. The ambitious vision requires confidence and professional reputation that have grown gradually through sustained excellence and meaningful achievement, rather than seeking recognition for its own sake. Emma's transformation illustrates how professional success can create opportunities for healing damaged family relationships, while demonstrating that authentic achievement often develops quietly over extended periods before receiving dramatic public recognition. Her story reminds us that sometimes the people closest to us are indeed the last to recognize our true capabilities, though family dynamics can change positively when all parties choose growth over defensiveness. The laboratory where Emma continues her life-saving research now serves as inspiration for younger scientists who visit to learn about enzyme replacement therapy and rare disease research methodologies. Emma takes particular satisfaction in mentoring graduate students and postdoctoral researchers who may face similar challenges in pursuing meaningful scientific work despite limited external understanding or support from people whose opinions matter most to them personally. Her advice to emerging researchers emphasizes the importance of maintaining internal motivation and professional integrity while remaining open to opportunities for improved communication and relationship building that may emerge unexpectedly. Emma's experience demonstrates that persistence in pursuing valuable work can eventually create conditions for both professional recognition and personal reconciliation, though neither outcome should be expected quickly or without sustained effort from everyone involved. The enzyme replacement therapies that began in Emma's laboratory now represent standard treatment protocols at pediatric hospitals across all populated continents, with ongoing research expanding to additional rare diseases that affect children worldwide. Emma's research legacy continues growing through collaborative partnerships and mentorship relationships that extend her impact far beyond what any individual scientist could accomplish working alone. Her family's journey from misunderstanding to enthusiastic support now serves as framework for improved communication about professional goals and personal values that honor different definitions of success while strengthening relationships based on mutual respect and genuine appreciation. The transformation required years of patient effort, though the positive outcomes demonstrate how damaged relationships can heal when people choose growth over pride. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.